Hi everyone, welcome to this week's video. I'm sharing a blueberry muffin recipe that is great for a breakfast treat. And what makes it extra special is a streusel topping layer. And for that we're going to start off by creaming some butter and sugar together. And when you're creaming things, it's very important that the butter is at room temperature, and that makes it a lot easier to work with and to incorporate the sugars that you're about to add. In this case, I decided to go for brown sugar because I love the taste of brown sugar. I love the color in the end, and of course this will also work with normal sugar, but I think it just tastes a lot better with brown sugar. And it's not a huge amount of work to prepare the streusel topping, but it's definitely worth that extra something in your muffins. Now I have some dry ingredients here, just some flour, some salt, baking powder, and a touch of cinnamon. The cinnamon part is optional. I like the taste of it, but you can obviously just leave that out. That would be absolutely fine. And that is it. We're just gonna combine all of this. It's gonna create this sort of paste, almost like a cookie type of paste. And that will be ready for our muffins as it is. But since I need to make my muffin batter, I'm gonna put this in the refrigerator for it to chill, and it will be easier to work with. It should not stick, it should really come together. So let's put this in the refrigerator and let's get to the muffin batter. And here is the list of ingredients that you will need for the muffins. So this is a 1 bowl recipe. You only need a bowl. I do like to use a hand mixer or a mixer to do this, but you can also do them by hand. So this is a very cake-like mixture. I'm also starting off by creaming butter and sugar together. And I really like that this recipe calls for butter, because you will find that most muffin recipes call for oil. And in the end, you can kind of feel the oily texture in a muffin. So this makes it a bit richer and very cake-like in the end. So you want to mix your butter and sugar for about 1 to 2 minutes, and then we're ready to add our eggs. And as usual with our cake mixtures, we do this one at a time. And at this point, I also like to add my vanilla. I have some homemade vanilla here. I will have a video on that later this month, hopefully. So stay tuned for that. So time for my second and last egg. And I'm not mixing on medium or high speed. This is really something that you could do by hand. Okay, I'm ready to prepare my dry ingredients. I have some baking powder going into my flour mixture, some salt, and for the wet ingredients, I have some whole milk. And we're gonna alternate these two. I'm starting with dry ingredients, and just to make sure there aren't any lumps, and because I want a very cake-like texture, I do like to sift this. And we're starting to mix on low speed. We don't want flour all over the counter and the kitchen. And when it starts to become a bit difficult for the mixer, then you add your wet ingredients. And just repeat this process until everything is incorporated. And it's good practice to get a spatula and clean the sides of your bowl regularly as you do this process. And this is our batter, but we're not quite done yet. I'm just gonna switch to a spatula at this point because I am ready for the main thing, the blueberries. And let me just quickly show you what the batter looks like. And it's very cake-like, very fluffy. It should be a really nice cakey muffin. So here I have about 2 cups of fresh blueberries. I've washed them and patted them dry with a paper towel. And to that, because I want to enhance the flavors, I think lemon goes really well. Now I don't want to add the lemon juice, I just want the flavor, so I use lemon zest. Now the blueberries go in. It might seem like there are a lot of blueberries in this recipe, but believe me, if you want a blueberry per bite, then this is a good amount to have. Now actually, I do recommend that you use fresh blueberries because I find that the frozen ones tend to leak their color into the batter as you fold them, and then you end up with something a little more moist than you would expect. And if you use fresh blueberries, I find that they really hold their shape as they bake, and then you end up with a very nice blueberry bite in the muffin. So I gently folded in the blueberries, and now I'm just ready to line up my muffin tray, and I'm using paper liners for this. I normally don't use paper liners because I like the crust that it forms when it bakes. But in this case, we have those blueberries in the batter, and if they touch the surface, they will burn and they will make it extra difficult for you to get the whole thing out of the pan. So this will make your life a lot easier, so I would just go with this. And as usual, and you've probably seen this in my other videos, I'm using an ice cream scoop just to portion these muffins out. I find that it works just perfectly. And if you finish scooping things and you find that you have some leftover batter, then you can go and do another round of just splitting that batter into each of those muffin cases. I'm being very careful when I'm scooping not to break any of the blueberries. So again, I'm going over what's left of the batter, and I added a little bit extra for each of them. So they will be relatively large muffins, and don't forget that we're not quite done yet. We still have that crumble topping to put on top. And this is, I have to say, this is my favorite part of the muffin. I love that crispy texture on top. You could make the muffins just as they are without the crumble if you wanted to, but honestly, you want this streusel topping because it tastes so good. And I'm just tearing it apart in the bowl. I just break it up into chunks, and if I find that the chunks are too big, then I break them up even further just using my fingers. And there we have it. These are ready to go in the oven at 180°C for about 25 minutes. And look at them. They are pretty big. They really expanded in the oven. They have this very round top. And as tempting as it is, you do have to let them cool before you take them out. I'm being overly careful in the video. I'm using an offset spatula just to loosen things up. Maybe there's some cranberry on the surface of the tray that I would like to avoid ripping off of the muffin. So you can try to be as careful as I am. If you don't have the patience, just grab the whole thing and take it out. And look at that. That is a big muffin. You can see the blueberries through the case. You can see that the blueberries didn't sink all the way to the bottom. We didn't have to flour them like other people suggest that you do. I find that this is really not necessary. And mine have cooled completely, so I'm ready to dig into one and show you exactly how they look and how beautiful the interior is. And while I'm carefully removing the liner here, maybe I can ask you to hit that like button if you have enjoyed the video so far, and if you like the content, maybe subscribe to my channel. I have tons of recipes there and lots more coming your way. But now back to the task at hand. It's packed with blueberries, it has this very tender crumb, and that beautiful streusel layer on top. These are gonna be the ultimate breakfast muffins. I promise you'll love them. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.